Maik Wiedenbach here for Blue Star. Stop doing this if you want bigger biceps.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Rob Richards with Blue Star Nutraceuticals, and with me is Olympic swimmer, New York City Trainer of the Year, NYU professor, and Musclemania champ, Maik Wiedenbach. Man, is there anything you can't do?
Not to be rude, but we won personal trainer 3 times in a row.
Okay, well with that being said, what are we doing in today's video?
So today, I've been on the fitness world for a while, and I picked 9 exercises people always do wrong. It could have been 90, but there has to be a limit as to how long the video is. So we start with 9 and maybe do a sequel at some point, okay? So 9 exercises people always do wrong, and we're gonna be in proper form.
Love it. Let's get into it.
Very popular exercise, see the dumbbell curl. Let's just see what we're doing here, see what I might be able to correct.
All right, well, this is how I see a lot of people perform it in
Correct.
the gym.
So now, don't let Rob's great biceps fool you. That's not how he built them, okay? What he's doing right now is essentially a front raise, okay? So whichever muscle moves first, that's the muscle that works. So the body's like, up, we're doing shoulders, got it. Not much bicep going on. Instead, we want to tuck ourselves in, actually start a little bit behind the body, and then get the full supination, okay?
Yep.
So the first thing that moves is the forearm, it's not the upper arm. There's actually very, very little movement in the upper arm, as you can see. And just purely by empirical data, Rob's being biceps so great, that must have worked for him.
It's one of my favorite arm exercises. I got a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
When it comes to supination or rotation at the wrist, do you vary your exercises or do you stick with one method?
Well, it really depends on mobility. Ideally you should be able to do this, but as you can see, my wrist doesn't really want to do that, right? So I can't curl up. Maybe that's why my biceps are not very good. But if you can, totally go for it.
Okay, great. What's next?
So side raises.
Okay.
I'm sure you've all seen the flapping bird.
Oh.
Like people using 50s. So this is a mix out of lower back and trapezius exercise, but not of the medial delt. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fall forward a tiny bit because whatever's on top works, right? So now we're actually having this. Now remember, there's no resistance until here. So that's where we're actually gonna start. And now we go up to my hand from the elbow, and that's where we're gonna bring it back down to here. So now the people are gonna be like, yo, full range of motion, bro. No, it's the full range of motion for that muscle that we're training, not what your arm can do. So now we're shortening this into here, which is what we're trying to do. Nice. As you can see, there's a pretty big difference in the execution.
Oh yeah. I mean, just from shortening that range of motion and focusing on the muscle itself, that's a great tip. Love that.
Okay, next exercise is something you see a lot, also in classes, is the lunge and the curl. Rob, if we just demo it, it really does not make sense because think about it. For one exercise, the main mover is the glute and the quads, literally the biggest muscle in the body, whereas for the other exercise, it's the bicep, rather small muscle. There's simply no way you can use enough weight to challenge your glutes that you can still curl, right? So you're undertraining one thing and overtraining the other, so it's just not a good. You want to do lunges, you do lunges. You want to do curls, you do curls. But don't mix and match. It simply does not work.
Right. Great point.
Okay, this is going to create lots of hate mail, but doing anything on a stability ball for bodybuilding purposes is a very bad idea. So Rob is going to demo a bench press on a ball, which don't let him do it because he has good mobility and I have liability insurance. But normally, here's what happens. The body senses instability. It shuts off contractile elements, which means you're not building any more muscle, okay? The risk of injury is sky high. Guys, why would you do this? You want to train your abs, you do that separately. You want to train your chest, be as stable as can be, get huge and stay healthy. Next up, cable flies. They get butchered so often. There comes 2 problems. 1, they become ineffective, and 2, they're gonna murder your shoulder. So let's go through it. So a lot of times what you see is what I call the gorilla. So now if you stop here, Rob, basically you can't really flex because the humerus is still too far away holding this. And also his shoulders are forward, right? So now he's really working his shoulders, kind of pulling the bicipital tendon over the ligament, over the joint, which is really a problem. Instead, let's try this. Standing up tall and come back till about when your lats are flexed.
Come back.
Come back, little more, little more, little more. Good, and now we're driving the elbows together, not so much the hands, just the elbows, perfect. Keeping the shoulder blades tight. See, now I can actually feel a much, you can't see it guys, but take my word for it. There's a much different activation in here now than there was before. Before I could only feel a contraction here, but not here. That's also the difference between a healthy shoulder and a blown out shoulder, as well as bigger pecs. It's your take, Rob.
Yeah, it's a great tip about driving from the elbow. I think all too often in the gym, we think about holding on, we think about the handles, and when it gets heavy, what do? We start to bring the shoulders round, we start to try and finish off like that.
That's when things go wrong.
Yeah, keeping it back. That shorter range of motion, I think, is a huge take home that too many times we want to go through all the way like that.
Yeah, you don't have to go that far. When your lats are flexed, that's it. That's how far you're going to go back.
Yep, and that drive from the elbows, imagine like someone's pressing from the elbow, and that's where your force.
Correct.
I love that technique. I think everyone should be able to gain a lot from that.
Great.
What's next?
Triceps.
Okay.
Okay, tricep press downs at the cable. Very popular one. Let's just demo how it's mostly being done.
Okay.
Which is this close stance, and again, the shoulders are rolled forward. So that is not gonna work so well for the tris. It's also gonna really murder his shoulders. So instead, we're gonna take an approach where we take a step all the way back to work different parts of the range of motion. Slight lean forward, slide only, and now his upper arms are always gonna stay connected to his lats, and it's only gonna be this motion precisely. As you can see, like his shoulders are not rising forward or upward. And then we go about here, work in the mid-range. See, most guys only work out here, but that's really on the top range of the motion where you have resistance. There's nothing wrong with it, but you should cover all three, which is what we're doing right now here. Much better, much shoulder friendlier. You're gonna get bigger arms, healthier shoulders. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I love that one.
Okay, a lat pull down, that also often gets butchered into a heavy bicep curl. What do I mean by this? Rob will demo here really quickly. So again, most people, the first thing that moves is this, okay? Now the issue is that the bicep will burn out before the lats, so you're never gonna develop your lats. So instead, we're gonna tighten ourselves up. Now the first thing is he's actually gonna push against my fingers forward and now start pulling. So the biceps will still work, and that's fine, but there's an auxiliary, not as a prime mover, right? So now we're working the big guy, can actually fully exhaust him and get that V-taper that we all want.
Yeah, I want to add something to that. It's a great point having you here, having New York City's Trainer of the Year 3 times in a row here.
Thank you.
Touch training. If you have a training partner or somebody who can touch the muscle, even ourselves if we're doing isolateral work.
Absolutely.
When you feel that muscle being touched and we can connect that mind-muscle connection.
The activation is much higher.
Exactly. So utilize your training partner, your workout buddy. I know often we're in the gym doing our own things, but have them come over, have them put their fingers on the muscle that you're working, and then really tie that all together when you're doing the movement so that you can feel that muscle activate to its fullest.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, that's true. Okay guys, let's cover leg extensions. That's also often not done properly. So with every muscle that you're training, you gotta remember there's basically, and I'm oversimplifying, 2 ends that have to come together. So for the hamstrings, we have to bring this into here, right? But what often happens is we start out well, and now this happens, right? So the glutes moving up, now the distance here doesn't get any shorter, right? It's also harmful for the lower back, and you feel it flexing. So what you want to do is you really drive the hips into the cushion and focusing on bringing this up here. Exactly. That's also much more difficult. You might have to halve your weight, but it will make for much better hamstring development. So always remember, you're trying to shove the 2 ends of the muscle together and not so much doing an exercise, okay? That's how you should think about training. Okay, so leg press, that is an example, a range of motion is being misunderstood. A lot of guys think like, how low can I go, bro? You know, and then they go into this position where they're putting themselves in a position where they can't actually work the muscle anymore. So it's down here, and that's actually very dangerous on the lower back. So the question is, how low should you go? What's the range of motion? So the active range of motion for the leg press is, can I do this? How high can I pull my leg without falling forward. So like whatever Rob can actually pull toward him, it's just about this. That's his range of motion for optimal development, okay? So you don't have to go crazy range of motions because somebody says so.
That's a great point that you just did when you were standing, bringing your knee up.
Yeah, what you can do in good form without collapsing, that's what you can do. Not what this guy can do, but that's what you can do.
Maik, that's a great point that you just made about when you stood there and you bring your knee up. It's a great visual as well, but also I think for each of us personally, it shows the extent of that range of motion. So by driving that knee up, it shows us where our start and end position should be when doing the leg press.
Correct. Keeps you injury free, better gains, everybody wins. Okay guys, that was it. 9 major mistakes in the gym. I hope it was helpful. Rob, thanks for having me. Thanks for being such a good host. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure. I mean, great tips, information that's coming that I think a lot of us are doing the exercises anyway, and these tips are just going to help realign us and refocus on exactly what it is that we're doing. So thank you for coming.
Thanks.
If you guys want to find out more about Maik Wiedenbach's training, we'll include all of the information for his YouTube channel in the description below. And again, if you like these kind of joint trainer workouts, let us know. Hit that like button, drop us a comment, let us know which of these tips you found to be the most helpful, and make sure you've got notifications turned on so you don't miss any of our videos that we upload every week. Until then, keep training hard, train smart, and have fun with it. Take care.